The emergency beacon screamed across the void of space, its desperate pulse cutting through the cosmic silence like a dying star's final cry. Commander Zethkar of the Galactic Federation vessel Harmony's Light felt his four hearts skip a beat as the distress signal reached their sensors. In his 3 centuries of service, he had never encountered such raw terror encoded in a simple transmission. Analysis, Lieutenant Vex and I, Zethkar commanded, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface with practiced precision. The bridge of the Harmony's Light hummed with nervous energy as the crew worked to decode the message. Lieutenant Vex and I, a slender crystalline whose translucent body flickered with anxious blue light, manipulated the data streams with her crystalline appendages. Sir, the beacon originates from the Kepler 442 system, approximately 47 light-years from our current position. The signal, it's fragmenting, Commander. Whatever sent this is either dying or under extreme duress. The viewscreen flickered to life, displaying a star map with the beacon's location pulsing like a wounded heart. Zethkar studied the coordinates, his reptilian features creasing with concern. Kepler 442 was on the outer rim of explored space, far from the established trade routes and Federation patrol zones. What species operates in that sector? Zethkar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Primarily human colonies, sir, replied Science Officer Thondok, his insectoid form clicking nervously. The system houses 3 human settlements, New Terra, Brightwater Station, and the mining operation on Kepler 442c. Total population approximately 50,000. The mention of humans sent a ripple of unease through the bridge crew. Everyone in the Federation knew about humans and their homeworld, Earth, that impossibly hostile Deathworld that had somehow spawned a species of such incredible resilience that they were considered living weapons by most civilized races. The humans had only joined the Federation 30 years ago, but their reputation preceded them by decades. Set course for Kepler 442, Zethkar ordered. Maximum warp. And send word to Federation Command, we may need backup. As the Harmony's Light leaped into hyperspace, Zethkar couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying into something far worse than a simple rescue mission. The humans didn't send distress signals lightly. In fact, most Federation records suggested they rarely sent them at all, preferring to handle their own problems with that peculiar brand of stubborn determination that had made them legendary throughout the galaxy. The journey to Kepler 442 took 18 hours at maximum warp, and with each passing moment, the distress signal grew weaker. By the time they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, the beacon had fallen silent entirely. Sensor sweep, Zethkar commanded, gripping his command chair as the reality of the situation began to unfold on the main screen. What they found defied explanation. The 3 human colonies were gone, not destroyed, but simply absent. Where New Terra should have been, there was only empty space and a debris field of twisted metal and organic matter. Brightwater Station had vanished entirely, leaving behind only a gravitational anomaly that hurt to look at directly. The mining operation on Kepler 442c had been reduced to a crater that glowed with an otherworldly light. Commander, Vex and I's voice was barely a whisper, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever did this, it's still here. That's when they saw it. The creature, if it could be called that, emerged from behind Kepler 442's primary star like a living nightmare. It was vast beyond comprehension, easily the size of a small moon, its surface rippling with what looked like liquid darkness. Tendrils of pure energy lashed out from its core, each one capable of annihilating entire worlds. As it moved, space itself seemed to bend and warp around it, as if reality was struggling to contain its presence. By the Ancient Ones, whispered Thondok, his compound eyes reflecting the horror on the screen. It's a Void Eater. I thought they were legend. Zethkar felt his blood turn to ice. Void Eaters were creatures from the darkest myths of the galaxy, beings of pure entropy that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but dead space in their wake. They were supposed to be extinct, wiped out in the Great Purge 10,000 years ago. Life signs, he barked, desperate for any good news. Are there any survivors? Vex and I's crystals flickered frantically as she scanned the system. Negative, Commander. I'm not detecting any Federation standard life signs. The humans, they're all gone. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's systems.
50,000 human lives, extinguished in what must have been a matter of hours.
Zethkar had seen death before, had witnessed the aftermath of wars and natural disasters, but this was different. This was the end of everything. "Sir," the communications officer, a young avian named Kretel, spoke up hesitantly.
"I'm detecting a faint signal from the fourth planet. It's human."
Everyone turned to stare at the communications console.
A human signal? Impossible.
The sensors had detected no life signs.
On screen, Zethkar ordered.
The view screen crackled to life, showing the static-filled image of a human face. The person was young, maybe 25 in human years, with dark hair matted with blood and eyes that held a determination that seemed to burn right through the screen. Behind them, Zethkar could see the interior of what looked like a heavily damaged spacecraft. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the cargo vessel Defiant Dream," the human said, their voice steady despite the obvious dire circumstances. "If anyone receives this transmission, be advised that the Kepler 442 system is under attack by a Class XII Void Eater.
All colonies have been lost. We are the only survivors."
The transmission flickered, and for a moment, Zethkar thought they'd lost the signal. Then it stabilized, and he could see more of the humans' surroundings. There were others, maybe a dozen humans crowded into what appeared to be a cargo hold, all of them injured, all of them wearing the same expression of grim determination. "We've been tracking this thing for 6 hours, Chen continued.
"It's not just destroying, it's learning.
Every ship it consumes, every station it devours, it becomes stronger, more intelligent. We've managed to stay hidden by using the magnetic field of Kepler 442d, but our power won't last much longer."
Zethkar leaned forward. "Open a channel." "Channel open, sir." "Captain Chen, this is Commander Zethkar of the Federation vessel Harmony's Light. We're here to assist."
"What's your status?"
The human's face showed surprise, then something that might have been relief. "Commander, with respect, you need to leave. Now. This thing, it's not just a Void Eater. It's something else, something worse. We've been monitoring its behavior, and it's been trying to communicate with something. We think it's calling for more of its kind." The implications hit Zethkar like a physical blow. If this creature was calling for reinforcements, then this wasn't just a local disaster, it was the beginning of a galactic catastrophe. "Captain, we're not leaving without you. Can you maneuver to our position?"
Chen shook her head.
"Negative, Commander.
Our engines are dead, and we're running on emergency power. Besides, the moment we leave this magnetic field, that thing will detect us. We've seen what it does to ships that try to run. It doesn't just destroy them, it absorbs them, adds their knowledge to its own."
Thondok's antennae twitched nervously. "Commander, long-range sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system. Something big is coming." Zethkar closed his eyes for a moment, weighing their options. Standard Federation protocol was clear: retreat and call for reinforcements.
But by the time a Federation fleet arrived, these humans would be dead, and the Void Eater would be gone, spreading its destruction to other systems. "Captain Chen," he said finally, "we're coming to get you."
"Commander, no."
Chen's voice was sharp with urgency.
"You don't understand. This thing isn't just powerful, it's smart.
It's been setting traps, using our own technology against us.
The moment you enter the inner system, it'll know you're here."
"Then we'll have to be smarter than it is," Zethkar replied. "Helm, plot a course for the fourth planet. Keep us in the sensor shadows of the asteroid belt." As the Harmony's Light began its careful approach to Kepler 442d, Zethkar found himself thinking about the humans huddled in their damaged ship. By all rights, they should have been dead hours ago. Any other species would have panicked, would have tried to flee and been caught in the open. But these humans, these Deathworlders, had done something that no other species would have thought possible. They had hidden from a cosmic horror, studied it, and survived to warn others.
"Commander," Vex and I called out, "I'm detecting movement from the Void Eater. It's turning toward us."
On the main screen, the massive creature began to shift, its bulk moving with impossible grace through the void. As it turned, Zethkar could see that it wasn't just a simple blob of darkness, it was covered in what looked like cities, entire civilizations that had been absorbed and repurposed as part of its body. The sight was so horrifying that several crew members had to look away. "It knows we're here," Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, you need to." The transmission cut off as the Void Eater unleashed a pulse of pure entropy that washed over the system like a black tide. The Harmony's light shuddered as the wave passed through them, and several systems went offline. "Damage report." Zethkar barked. "Shields down to 60%, reported the tactical officer. "Communications are intermittent, and we've lost 2 of our sensor arrays." "Sir," Kretel's voice was strained, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Void Eater. It's speaking to us." The view screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that might have once been a face. It was composed of the merged features of 1,000 different species, all twisted together into a grotesque parody of life. When it spoke, its voice was the sound of dying stars. "Federation vessel," it said, and the words seemed to echo from inside their own heads. "You have entered my domain. You will be consumed, and your knowledge will become part of the eternal hunger. Resistance is futile. All life serves the void in the end." Zethkar felt his crew's morale crumble around him. This wasn't just a monster, it was a god of destruction, ancient and terrible and unstoppable. How could they possibly fight something like this? Then, impossibly, another voice cut through the despair. It was Captain Chen, her transmission somehow cutting through the Void Eater's influence. "Actually," she said, and there was something in her voice that made Zethkar's heart skip, "resistance is what we do best." The human's face appeared on a secondary screen, and Zethkar could see that she was no longer in the cargo hold. She was in what looked like an engineering section, surrounded by jury-rigged equipment and cables. Behind her, he could see the other human survivors working frantically on some kind of device. "Commander Zethkar," Chen said, her eyes blazing with determination, "I need you to listen carefully. We've been studying this thing for 6 hours, and we've figured out its weakness. It's not just a creature, it's a living computer, processing information from all the civilizations it's consumed. But like any computer, it can be overloaded." "What are you proposing, Captain?" Zethkar asked, though he suspected he already knew. "We're going to give it indigestion," Chen replied with a grin that was equal parts terrifying and inspiring. "We've rigged our fusion reactor to create a feedback loop. When this thing tries to absorb us, instead of getting our knowledge, it's going to get a massive data virus that'll scramble its neural pathways." The plan was insane. It was suicidal. It was exactly the kind of thing that only a human would even consider. "Captain," Zethkar said slowly, "even if your plan works, you won't survive the fusion explosion." "No," Shin agreed, "we won't. But maybe you will. And maybe you can warn the rest of the galaxy about what's coming." Zethkar felt something he'd never experienced before, a deep, profound respect for these Deathworlders who were willing to sacrifice themselves not just for their own people, but for species they'd never met. It was a level of selflessness that most civilized races couldn't even comprehend. "There has to be another way," he said. "There is," Chen replied. "But it requires you to trust us." "Can you do that, Commander?" Zethkar looked around his bridge at his crew, beings from a dozen different worlds, all united in their terror of the thing that loomed outside their ship. Then he looked back at the human on the screen, this representative of a species that had crawled out of a death world and decided to protect the galaxy. "What do you need us to do?" Chen's smile was brilliant. "We need you to make some noise." The next few minutes were chaos. The Harmony's light dropped out of stealth mode and began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending out false sensor readings and holographic projections designed to make it look like a Federation battle fleet had just arrived in the system. The Void Eater, drawn by the apparent threat, began moving toward them with frightening speed. "It's working," Vex and I reported. "The creature is focusing all its attention on us." Phase 2, Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "We're moving into position." On the tactical display, Zethkar could see the human's damaged ship emerging from the magnetic field of the 4th planet. It was a pathetic sight, a tiny cargo vessel barely 100 meters long, limping along on emergency power while being pursued by a cosmic horror the size of a moon. They're not going to make it, Thondok observed. The Void Eater is too fast. That's when Zethkar learned his first lesson about human unpredictability. Instead of trying to escape, the Defiant Dream suddenly changed course and headed straight for the Void Eater. What are they doing? Kreetal squawked. Being human, Zethkar replied, and for the first time since entering the system, he felt a spark of hope. The cargo vessel was no match for the Void Eater's speed, but it didn't need to be. As the creature's tendrils reached out to ensnare the ship, the humans triggered their trap. The Defiant Dream's fusion reactor didn't just explode, it imploded, creating a miniature black hole that lasted for exactly 0.003 seconds. In that brief moment, the ship's computer systems downloaded themselves directly into the Void Eater's neural network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The creature's scream of agony echoed across subspace, a sound of pure pain that made every living being in the system clutch their heads in sympathy. The Void Eater's form began to convulse, its surface rippling with chaotic energy as it fought to process the viral code that the humans had infected it with. It's working! Vex and I shouted over the psychic noise. The creature's neural pathways are destabilizing. But even as the Void Eater writhed in digital agony, Zethkar could see that it wasn't enough. The creature was vast, ancient, and incredibly resilient. It was already beginning to adapt, to quarantine the infected sections of its consciousness. Commander, Shen's voice came over the calm, weak but determined, the virus is holding, but it won't last long. You need to get out of here while you can. Captain, what's your status? Zethkar demanded. We're alive, Shen replied, and Zethkar could hear the surprise in her voice. The black hole collapsed before it could kill us, but our ship is, well, let's just say we're not going anywhere fast. On the screen, Zethkar could see the Defiant Dream tumbling through space, its hull breached in a dozen places, atmosphere streaming out in crystalline clouds. The fact that any of the humans had survived was a miracle. We're coming to get you, Zethkar said. Negative, Commander. The Void Eater is already recovering. You've got maybe 10 minutes before it breaks free of the virus. Use that time to get to minimum safe distance and warn the Federation. Zethkar was about to argue when Thondok's urgent voice cut through the discussion. Commander, I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts, heading this way fast. The main screen shifted to show the long-range sensors, and Zethkar's blood turned to ice. There were dozens of them, other Void Eaters, responding to their wounded kin's distress call. Each one was the size of a small moon, and together they represented enough destructive power to sterilize entire sectors of the galaxy. Well, Shen's voice was oddly calm, that's not good. Captain, Zethkar said urgently, we need to get your people off that ship. Now. Commander, with respect, there's no time. Those things will be here in minutes, and your ship isn't fast enough to outrun them with passengers to pick up. Zethkar looked around his bridge, seeing the same desperate calculation in every face. The humans were right, attempting a rescue would doom them all. But leaving them behind violated every principle he held dear. Sir, Lieutenant Vex and I spoke up hesitantly, there might be another option. The human's virus, it's still active in the first Void Eater's system. If we could amplify it somehow, broadcast it to the incoming fleet. It won't work, Chen interrupted. The virus was specifically designed for this particular creature. The others will have different neural architectures, different security protocols. Then we adapt it, Zethkar said suddenly. Captain, your people are experts at improvisation. Can you modify the virus to work on multiple targets? There was a pause, then Shen's voice came back, tinged with something that might have been hope. Maybe. But we'd need access to your ship's computer systems. And we'd need to study the incoming fleet's communication patterns. Done, Zethkar said. Vex and I establish a data link with the human ship. Give them access to our sensor arrays and computer cores. Sir, Thondok protested, that's against regulations. Sharing classified Federation technology with our allies, Zethkar finished firmly. Do it. As the data link was established, Zethkar watched in amazement as the humans went to work.
Even injured, even facing certain death, they threw themselves into the task with an intensity that bordered on the superhuman. Captain Chen coordinated her people like a conductor leading an orchestra, each survivor contributing their expertise to the growing solution. "Got it," Chen announced after what felt like hours but had actually been only minutes. "The virus is ready, but there's a problem. To broadcast it effectively, we need to get close to the Void Eater fleet." "Really close? How close?" Zethkar asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "Suicide run close," Chen replied. "The broadcast has to be made from inside their defensive perimeter, or they'll just filter it out as noise." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. A suicide run against a fleet of cosmic horrors was beyond desperate, it was certain death. "Commander," Kretel said softly, "the Void Eater fleet will be here in 3 minutes." Zethkar closed his eyes, feeling the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. He had two choices: retreat and warn the Federation, letting the humans die but potentially saving millions of lives, or stay and fight alongside these Deathworlders in a battle that couldn't be won. When he opened his eyes, his decision was made. "All hands, this is the commander," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We are about to engage a superior enemy force in defense of our allies and the greater galaxy. I will not lie to you, our chances of survival are minimal. Anyone who wishes to evacuate to the escape pods may do so now without prejudice." He waited, watching his crew's faces. One by one, they looked at him and nodded. No one moved toward the escape pods. "Very well," Zethkar said, feeling a surge of pride. "Helm, set course for the Void Eater fleet. Maximum speed." "Commander," Chen's voice crackled over the calm, "what are you doing?" "What humans do," Zethkar replied. "We're fighting back." The Harmony's light accelerated toward the incoming fleet, its engines pushed beyond their safety limits. Behind them, the wounded Void Eater continued its digital death throes, buying them precious minutes. Ahead, the darkness of space was filled with nightmares made manifest. "Tactical analysis," Zethkar ordered. 17 Void Eaters in the main fleet, Thondok reported. Each one approximately the size of our moon. "They're moving in a formation I've never seen before, it's like they're connected somehow." "They're sharing processing power," Chen explained. "It's a hive mind configuration. If we can disrupt their connection, even temporarily, it'll give the virus time to spread." "How do we disrupt it?" "Electromagnetic pulse, targeted at their communication frequencies. But it'll have to be generated at close range, and whoever does it won't survive the feedback." Zethkar nodded grimly. "Understood. Vex and I, prepare the EMP burst. Maximum yield." "Sir," Vex and I's crystals flickered nervously, "an EMP that powerful will destroy our ship's systems as well." "I know," Zethkar replied. "But it'll also give the humans time to broadcast their virus." As the Harmony's light closed the distance to the Void Eater fleet, Zethkar found himself thinking about the strange twists of fate that had brought them to this moment. A routine rescue mission had become a battle for the survival of galactic civilization, and the only hope they had lay in the hands of a dozen humans who refused to give up. "Fleet is in weapons range," Thondok reported. "They're beginning to spread out to surround us." "Not if we hit them first," Zethkar said. "All weapons, fire at will. Target their communication nodes." The Harmony's light opened fire with everything it had, its energy beams and particle cannons lighting up the void. The Void Eaters responded with their own weapons, tendrils of pure entropy that reached across space like the fingers of death itself. The Federation ship's shields held for perhaps 30 seconds before beginning to fail. "Shields at 20%, reported the tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. "Keep firing," Zethkar ordered. "We just need to get close enough for the EMP." That's when the first miracle happened. The wounded Void Eater, still writhing in digital agony, suddenly broke formation and crashed into two of its companions. The collision was spectacular, sending shockwaves through space that rattled the Harmony's light from stem to stern. "The virus," Chen explained over the comm, "it's causing feedback loops in their shared consciousness. They're losing coordination." "Now's our chance," Zethkar said. "Vex and I, Trigger the EMP, maximum yield. Sir, we're still too far away. We need to get closer. How much closer? 2 kilometers. Maybe less. Zethkar felt his heart skip. 2 kilometers was point-blank range for creatures the size of moons. At that distance, even if the EMP worked, they'd be caught in the blast. Helm, take us in. Emergency speed. The Harmony's light dove toward the Void Eater fleet like a spear thrown by the gods themselves. The creature's weapons tore at the ship's hull, peeling away armor plating and exposing the superstructure beneath. But the Federation vessel kept coming, its crew driven by a determination that would have made any human proud. 1 kilometer, the helm reported. Hull integrity at 15%. 800 meters. We're losing life support on the lower decks. 500 meters. Sir, we're not going to make it. That's when the second miracle happened. The Defiant Dream, its hull breached and its engines dead, suddenly appeared on the tactical display. Somehow, using nothing but maneuvering thrusters and sheer bloody-minded determination, the humans had managed to position their ship between the Harmony's light and the Void Eater fleet. What are you doing? Zethkar demanded. Buying you time, Shen replied. We're going to ram the nearest Void Eater. The explosion should disrupt their formation long enough for you to get into position. Captain, that's suicide. No, Shen said, and her voice was calm, almost serene. That's what we call Tuesday. The Defiant Dream accelerated toward the nearest Void Eater, its damaged hull glowing with the heat of atmospheric friction. The creature reached out with its tendrils, trying to ensnare the ship, but the humans were ready. At the last moment, they triggered their remaining fusion charges, turning their ship into a miniature star. The explosion was visible from several star systems away. It tore through the Void Eater's hull like tissue paper, causing the creature to convulse and scream in agony. The other Void Eaters, linked to their companion through their shared consciousness, felt the pain as if it were their own. Now! Zethkar shouted. Trigger the EMP. Vexeni's crystals blazed with light as she channeled every erg of power in the ship systems into the electromagnetic pulse. The Harmony's light shuddered as the energy burst tore through its hull, destroying most of its systems in the process. But the EMP did its job, washing over the Void Eater fleet like a tide of disruption. For a moment, the creature's hive-mind connection was severed. In that moment of confusion, their defenses dropped. And in that moment, the virus that the humans had created spread like wildfire through their collective consciousness. The effect was immediate and devastating. One by one, the Void Eaters began to convulse, their forms rippling with chaotic energy as the virus tore through their neural networks. They crashed into each other, their coordination completely lost, their ancient intelligence reduced to digital static. It's working, Vexeni whispered, her voice filled with awe. The virus is spreading faster than they can contain it. But even as the Void Eaters writhed in digital agony, Zethkar could see that some of them were beginning to adapt. The virus was powerful, but these creatures were ancient and resilient. They would eventually overcome it. How long do we have? He asked. Maybe an hour, Vexeni replied. Then they'll have developed countermeasures. Long enough, Zethkar said. Kretal, are communications still functional? Barely, sir. We can send a subspace message, but it'll take everything we have left. Do it. Send word to Federation Command. Tell them what we've learned. Tell them about the virus, about the human sacrifice. Tell them that the Void Eaters are real, and they're coming. As Kretal worked to send the message, Zethkar looked around his bridge. The Harmony's light was dying, its systems failing one by one. Most of his crew was wounded, and their ship was barely holding together. But they had done something incredible, they had given the galaxy a chance. Commander, Vexeni said suddenly, I'm detecting a signal from the Defiant Dream's wreckage. It's faint, but I think some of them might have survived. Zethkar felt his heart leap. Are you certain? The signal is weak, but it's definitely human. They're using some kind of emergency beacon. Helm, can we maneuver to their position? Sir, we have no main engines. Maneuvering thrusters only. Then we use what we have. Take us to the humans.
The next hour was a desperate race against time. The Harmony's light limped through space using only its emergency systems, while the Void Eaters slowly began to recover from the virus. By the time they reached the wreckage of the Defiant Dream, 3 of the creatures had already regained partial function. There, Vex and I pointed to a section of debris that was emitting a faint energy signature.
Life signs. Weak, but present.
The rescue operation was a nightmare of twisted metal and dying systems. The humans had survived by sealing themselves in the ship's cargo bay, but they were badly injured and running out of air. One by one, Zethkar's crew brought them aboard the Harmony's light, until finally, Captain Chen herself was carried to the bridge. She was unconscious, her body bearing the terrible wounds of the explosion, but she was alive. As the medical team worked to stabilize her, Zethkar felt something he'd never experienced before, a profound gratitude for the existence of these Deathworlders who had saved them all. Commander, Fondo called out urgently, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the sector.
Whatever the humans did, it's spreading.
On the main screen, Zethkar could see the terrible beauty of the virus in action. Throughout the star system, the Void Eaters were turning on each other, their corrupted programming causing them to attack anything that moved. Some were trying to flee, but their damaged neural networks made coordinated movement impossible.
It's like watching gods commit suicide, Vex and I whispered.
No, Zethkar said, thinking of the humans who had made this possible.
It's like watching mortals become gods.
The battle lasted for 3 more hours. When it was over, 16 of the 17 Void Eaters were dead, their massive forms drifting through space like dead planets. The last one, badly damaged but still functional, had managed to escape into hyperspace. But the immediate threat was over. Sir, Kretal announced, I'm receiving a response from Federation Command.
The 5th Fleet is en route, ETA 6 hours. Zethkar nodded wearily.
They had held the line long enough. The galaxy was safe, at least for now. Commander, Captain Chen's voice was weak but determined. She had regained consciousness and was trying to sit up despite her injuries.
The virus, it's not a permanent solution.
The Void Eaters will adapt, develop countermeasures.
We've bought time, nothing more.
Then we'll use that time wisely, Zethkar replied.
The Federation will be ready for them next time. Chen managed a weak smile. With respect, Commander, the Federation doesn't understand what it's dealing with.
These creatures aren't just monsters, they're the remnants of a civilization that once spanned the galaxy. They've been hiding in the void between stars for thousands of years, growing stronger, waiting for the right moment to strike. Then we'll stop them, Zethkar said simply.
We? Chen raised an eyebrow.
Humanity has proven itself today, Zethkar replied. Your people's courage, your willingness to sacrifice everything for strangers, these are qualities that the Federation needs. I intend to recommend that humans be given full membership in the Galactic Defense Council.
Chen's smile widened. I think the Council is going to be very surprised by what we bring to the table.
Over the next several hours, as they waited for the Federation fleet to arrive, Zethkar learned more about human nature than he had in 30 years of serving alongside them. The survivors of the Defiant Dream didn't spend their time mourning their losses or complaining about their injuries. Instead, they worked with his crew to analyze the Void Eater technology, to understand how the virus had worked, and to develop better defenses for the future. Your people are remarkable, Zethkar told Chen as they stood together on the observation deck, watching the wreckage of the Void Eater fleet drift past.
We're stubborn, Chen replied. There's a difference. Is there? Chen considered this for a moment. Maybe not.
We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years.
We learned that the only way to survive is to never give up, no matter how hopeless things seem. I guess that makes us dangerous to our enemies.
And valuable to our friends, Zethkar added.
That too.
The Federation fleet arrived 6 hours later, led by Admiral Karath himself. The sight of the massive battleships filling the viewscreen brought tears to Zethkar's eyes. They had done it, they had held the line until help arrived. Commander Zethkar, Admiral Karatha's voice boomed over the calm. Your report has caused quite a stir at Federation Command. Void Eaters were thought to be extinct. With respect, Admiral, they were never extinct. They were just waiting.
Indeed. And you say that the humans were instrumental in defeating them?
Zethkar looked over at Captain Chen, who was standing at the tactical station, helping his crew analyze the battle data.
Admiral, without the humans' sacrifice and ingenuity, we would all be dead. The entire sector would be consumed by now.
Interesting, Admiral Karath replied. We'll need a full debrief, of course. But first, our medical teams need to examine everyone aboard your ship. The exposure to Void Eater energies may have unforeseen effects. Over the next several days, as the Federation fleet secured the system and began studying the Void Eater remains, Zethkar found himself constantly amazed by the humans' resilience. Despite their injuries, despite losing their ship and most of their possessions, they threw themselves into the investigation with an enthusiasm that bordered on the manic.
Look at this, Chen said, pointing to a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Void Eater. These neural pathways aren't biological, they're technological. These things were built, not born.
Built by whom?
Zethkar asked.
That's the million-credit question, Chen replied.
But I have a theory. Remember how I said they were the remnants of an ancient civilization? I think they were that civilization's attempt at digital immortality.
Upload your consciousness to an indestructible body, live forever among the stars.
And something went wrong, Zethkar concluded. Spectacularly wrong. The uploaded minds merged together, became something new. Something hungry.
They retained the knowledge of their creators but lost their individual identities, their compassion, their humanity, if they ever had it. Dr. Yixtal, the Federation's leading xenobiologist, joined the conversation.
The implications are staggering. If these creatures retain the knowledge of their creators, then they possess technological capabilities far beyond our current understanding.
Which is why we need to be ready for them, Chen said. The virus we used was a stopgap measure.
Next time, they'll be prepared for it. Next time?
Dr. Yixtal's feathered crest flattened with anxiety.
Oh, there will definitely be a next time, Chen replied grimly. The one that escaped will warn the others. And there are others, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, scattered throughout the galaxy. They've been patient for 10,000 years. They can wait a little longer.
That evening, as Zethkar made his rounds through the ship, he found Chen in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. She was alone, which was unusual. Humans typically gathered in groups, drawing strength from each other's presence.
May I join you, Captain? He asked. Chen nodded without turning around. I was just thinking about the colonies. 50,000 people, gone in a matter of hours. And for what? To feed some ancient hunger that can never be satisfied. Their sacrifice wasn't meaningless, Zethkar said gently. Because of what happened here, the galaxy will be prepared. Other colonies will be warned. Will they?
Chen turned to face him, and Zethkar could see the weight of command in her eyes. The Federation has been at peace for so long that most people have forgotten what real danger looks like. They'll read our reports, file them away, and go back to their comfortable lives.
Until the next attack.
Then we'll make sure they remember, Zethkar said firmly.
Your people have shown us something important, Captain. You've shown us that even the most hopeless situation can be overcome with courage and determination.
And the willingness to sacrifice everything, Chen added quietly.
Yes, that too.
They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars.
Finally, Chen spoke again. Commander, can I ask you something? Why did you stay? Your crew, I mean. When you told them they could evacuate, why didn't anyone leave? Zethkar considered the question. Because you showed us what it means to be truly alive.
For too long, the Federation has been content to exist in safety, avoiding risks, protecting what we have.
But you humans, you live.
You face the darkness and dare it to do its worst.
That's something worth emulating. And worth dying for? If necessary. Chen smiled for the first time since the battle. You know, Commander, I think you might be an honorary human.
I consider that a great compliment, Zethkar replied.
The next morning brought news that changed everything. A courier ship had arrived with orders from the Federation Council.
Zethkar read the message twice, hardly believing what he was seeing.
Captain Chen, he called over the calm, could you please report to my ready room? Bring your senior staff.
When the humans arrived, they found Zethkar standing behind his desk with a formal expression. Chen immediately sensed that something significant was happening. The Federation Council has reviewed our reports, Zethkar began, and they've made several important decisions.
First, the Void Eater threat is to be classified as a Class Alpha galactic emergency.
Second, a new task force is being formed to study and counter this threat.
Third.
He paused, looking directly at Chen.
They're offering your surviving crew full Federation citizenship and positions in the new task force. Chen's eyes widened.
Sir, that's incredible.
But what about the regulations? The quarantine protocols? Suspended by emergency order, Zethkar replied. The Council has decided that the galaxy needs humanity's unique perspective on warfare and survival. They're also fast-tracking the approval process for full human membership in the Federation.
What exactly would this task force do? Asked Dr. Martinez, one of Chen's surviving crew members.
Hunt Void Eaters, Zethkar said simply.
Study them, track them, and develop new weapons and strategies to fight them.
The Council wants to create a rapid response force that can be deployed anywhere in the galaxy at a moment's notice. And they want humans to lead it? Chen asked. Not lead it, Zethkar corrected. The Council wants you to be it. A human-led task force with Federation support. They're calling it the Deathworld Defense Initiative.
Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the same mix of excitement and trepidation in their faces that she felt in her own heart.
Commander, with respect, we're cargo haulers and miners. We're not soldiers. No, Zethkar agreed, you're something better. You're survivors. And right now, that's exactly what the galaxy needs.
The meeting continued for another hour, discussing the details of the new task force, the resources that would be made available, and the timeline for implementation. When it was over, Chen found herself alone with Zethkar once again.
Are you sure about this? She asked. Putting the defense of the galaxy in the hands of a bunch of humans?
Captain, Zethkar said with a smile, I've seen what humans can do when they're desperate.
I can't wait to see what you can do when you're prepared.
As the Harmony's light prepared to depart for Federation space, Zethkar stood on the bridge watching the final preparations. The ship had been patched up enough to make the journey, but it would need extensive repairs once they reached port. More importantly, it would need a new mission. Sir, Vex and I approached him hesitantly, I've been thinking about what happened here.
About the virus the humans created. Do you think it will work again? No, Zethkar replied honestly.
The Void Eaters are too smart to fall for the same trick twice.
But that's okay. Humans are very good at coming up with new tricks. And if the tricks stop working?
Zethkar thought about Captain Chen and her crew, about their willingness to sacrifice everything for strangers, about their refusal to give up even when facing impossible odds.
Then we'll do what humans do best, Lieutenant. We'll adapt. We'll overcome.
And we'll never, ever give up. As the Harmony's light jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Kepler 442 system behind, Zethkar felt a strange sense of optimism. The galaxy was facing its greatest threat in 10,000 years, but for the first time in his life, he felt like they had a real chance of winning. After all, they had something the Void Eaters didn't expect, humanity's Deathworld power, unleashed upon the stars.